Audio is coming on. Audio is on. Let me get a mic check.
Hello, hello.
Hello. No, not you, her.
Me? Hi.
Do it again.
Hi.
Keep it.
Hello, hello. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing,
All right,
testing.
Chloe.
Hello, welcome to Untitled People radio show.
A little more. Do it again.
Again? Hey, what's up?
All right, Ceasar.
Hello.
All right. You ready? Run it. See this one. That's right. All right, good.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today to the Unite the People radio show. Today's going to be a great show. We have a special guest. I do want to address this first. We do have Lauren Posen, who was supposed to come in today, a journalist from Spectrum One News. Great journalist, does a lot of good work for the people. She was supposed to be coming in today, and we had to put that off maybe to the week after next. But in her place, we got the great Chloe, one of our best people there at the office. We're all great people, but she's definitely one of the great people at our office. She does a lot of work with the social justice aspect of our organization, so she's a really great asset to the organization. And she's going to be discussing a lot of good things today, a lot of things that will help bring information for the people or to the people. So right now, why don't we go ahead and say hi to Destiny, who is also doing the show with us today. She's one of the great people at our organization. We're all great people. No, but honestly, just wanted to say thank you for Destiny coming on the show today, and want to bring in our special guest, Chloe, and ask her a little bit about herself. So, Chloe.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Let's give her a little round of applause, everybody. Come on, Joe. All right, thanks, brother. And tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you want to join the staff here at United People.
Yes, of course. Well, I started as an intern a couple months ago. I just graduated college, so I was looking for something to do after. And one of our lawyers actually went to the same school as me, so that's how the connection came. Anthony Schaefer went to Concordia Irvine, which is where I just graduated from. But then I love the mission. I like that it's a small company, and I didn't know a lot about post-conviction law coming out of school. I didn't study law in school, but I thought it was really interesting, and it's not something that you hear enough about, I don't think, even though we've been talking about, like the country's been grappling with issues kind of like this, but no one really focuses on the people who are already incarcerated, and I think that no one really cares about them very much. But I like what we do at Unite People, and I've been enjoying my time on the social justice side of things. We do a lot of outreach. I was born and raised in Long Beach. That was one of the big allures of working in Long Beach. Was I know the area, and I like working with people in Long Beach. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. Let me ask you this: what is one of the main things that you have come to enjoy working with United People?
I like my team. We have a good team of a social justice team, and I just like kind of brainstorming, and we're coming up with more like kind of unique ways to get the word out about our services, or finding things to educate the people about on social media. And I really like just like working together and kind of bouncing ideas off each other. I enjoy that.
Okay. Well, that's definitely beautiful. What I want to do is come back to you and discuss some of the things that some of the bills and some of the things that are going on in the prison system in a minute. But first, I did want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in last week, and we definitely appreciate all of the questions. We will definitely get to them today. We'll answer whatever questions anyone has. Coming up, I think next week we're going to have a feature to do call-ins where you can call in live and ask any questions that you want to ask, anything you need addressed, even questions that may be pertaining to your loved one who was incarcerated. And again, we're not the lawyers from the organization. We will be having them come in every once in a while just to give you that real legal advice from a lawyer, but just from the aspect of an organization, and we can tell you about services that we provide. So, that's going to be a great feature, and I'm really looking forward to that. We're really looking forward to that, to be able to answer some of the questions live over the air. But for now, the questions that were submitted to us, we're going to definitely get to those. There's a few things that we wanted to address that they wanted to go over, which I'll throw it to you, Chloe.
Yeah. So last week on the show, I was behind the camera last week, but we were. I don't remember what you guys were talking about, but you mentioned something about COVID, like in the prisons, and I thought it would be really interesting to talk about the pandemic and how it's affected, like specifically the people in the prisons, because they seem to be more vulnerable to the virus because of like just the way it's set up, close quarters and stuff. I was doing some reading, and I think I was doing mostly reading in the state of California, but the rate of infection in prisons is like way higher than in the outside, and I think that has to do with like the conditions in there and stuff. So I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about because it with the new Delta variant and stuff, it is on the cases are, we thought we were kind of this summer gonna be good, but it's kind of been like building up again. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that, especially since you got out of San Quentin right when it hit, right?
About 5 months in.
Okay.
I was there for about 5 months when COVID first hit the prison system. Was the end of February, March, somewhere around there, February, March of last year. And the prison system definitely wasn't ready for it. We can say that off top, right? Mm-hmm. The prison system definitely wasn't ready for it. I myself was at San Quentin State Prison when it hit. And you mentioned the living conditions, and that's the key thing. That's one of the reasons why it's hitting the prisons harder than it is the outside community, is because everybody is congested, right? Everybody is stacked on top of each other. I mean, literally stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
And like the San Quentin prison cells are really, really small, really, really tight quarters. So you and your cellie are never more than a few feet from each other, as well as the guys next door. See, it's bars. There's no doors. You're not sealed off. You can't any of that. So whatever he's coughing and breathing, you guys are coughing and breathing. Mm-hmm. So there was a point where COVID hadn't hit San Quentin yet, and we were still, locked down. The procedures, the COs were our main problem. Because a lot of the COs would come into the prison and they wouldn't cover their faces, no masks. Mm-hmm. They refused. Like the majority of the COs would say that I would ask, right? Like, hey man, why are you not wearing a mask? Oh man, COVID's not real. COVID's not, that's just something they're making up for the media. So it was the tough guy culture. Mm-hmm. And again, the culture of a prison, when you're speaking of COs, is basically like a high school. A prison is like a high school. Like if you want to think of how is a prison ran, or how is it being in a prison besides the violence and the filth and all the rest of that, it's the same as high school. The COs are the seniors. The sergeants, lieutenants, on up, they're the admin at your high school. And then you got the senior class, which is your COs, but those are the people that you're around. And the culture was, excuse me, that COVID isn't real. If you're wearing a mask, you're a sucker, a sissy, or something like that. And they wouldn't wear them for the most part. Unless the administration came around, then they would put their masks on or whatever. But what ended up happening was that initially started the spread of COVID in the prison.
Yeah, definitely.
And then there was an outbreak at the Chino institution. And they had a major outbreak. They had a big problem. And then what they ended up doing was transferring the guys from the Chino prison to San Quentin. And when they did that, we had a massive outbreak. Like everybody you knew was getting COVID, right? And then you also have to remember the COs aren't maintenance. There's not really, and that's a factor. Just like now, the prisons are being re-locked down again, right? The prisons are going back to no contact visits. They're going back to, I speak with people's loved ones from the prisons all the time, and they're going back on lockdown. They're going back to no contact visits. They're doing all of that. But the real problem inside the prison is the capability or not having the capability to keep the prison disinfected.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's, for instance, when I was there, when they locked us all down, the COs were doing the feeding, the cleaning, and this is something they are not liking to do.
Right.
Right? If you want to see a bunch of upset COs, go to a prison during a lockdown where they're having to serve the trays and then bring trash cans around and dump every tray from every guy. Then they're supposed to mop and sweep the floors. You want to see a pissed off bunch of guys, you go there during that. So what they do is they'll bring out certain guys, and the good guys, and they'll clean up, right? But after a certain point, when they first lock you down, it's none of that. Then after a while, after it starts lightening up, then they'll bring out like their head porters. And these will be the guys cleaning up. But these guys aren't trained to disinfect for COVID.
Right.
This is a guy that got a drug case or a guy that got whatever case. They're not training people to disinfect the prisons correctly. So that plus close quarters, plus everybody's, in there, I don't want to say aging, but, I went from 20 to 40 fast, right?
Oh, yeah.
And people do that. So at a prison like San Quentin, where the majority, most of the population is older people, with the the higher risk factors for really getting tore up from COVID. That's why you have a lot of the deaths that were at San Quentin. But that's pretty much the reasoning that I've seen.
Yeah.
Is, and then also there's rules and regulations. You must shower guys in prison at least once every 3 days. So
That always or just during COVID?
That's the rule in prison, that you
Oh,
have
okay.
to get a
It's like
shower because every 3 days, because the COs, and not all COs, I hate saying the COs like it's all, but not all of them, but the majority, the culture is, to hell with the inmates, right? There'll be times where you have to argue, scream, kick, fight to get a shower. So what they'll do is, when I was there, what they were doing was they would have us separated because of COVID. But then when your time comes for a shower, they will cut 200 people out to shower at once. And they're in San Quentin in North Block where I was, there's maybe 8 to 10 shower heads for the whole black population. It's segregated there. So the black population showers together. Now the showers are just like these microphones, this far apart, like literally.
Yeah.
So you're shoulder to shoulder, but it's COVID, right? We're in a row, 12 of us, or 8 to 10, but there's people in between trying to jump in and out of the showers. And then there's rows of guys out here waiting for a shower. So how is that social distancing?
Defeats the purpose of all the other stuff.
And then after you shower and you do all that, then you go lock it up and they say everybody stay away from each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
They were running child. They would say, okay, first the COs have to come feed each individual cell. Again, you want to see a pissed off CO? Go to a prison during lockdown. They will figure out a way not to have to feed every cell. Now, San Quentin, each building, there's 800 to 900 people in each block, right?
It's huge, yeah.
And there's maybe 4 COs, 5 COs tops that's working in that building. So they'll bring in some extra COs, a few extra COs, and then they have to feed the individual cells. But when they do that, the sergeants will figure out a way, because the COs are pissed off, they'll figure out a way to make this easier on them. So what they started doing was they would stack everybody's trays on the floor on the first 5 tiers. They had to carry these trays up the tiers to each cell, carry the trays down, empty trays, the carts, the trash cans. They hated that. So what they would do is stack everything up on the floor on the first tier, and then open the door. Tier 5, come on down. But they'll open up both sides on tier 5, and there's 50-something cells, 2 people in each cell, and it's 2 sides. So you got all of these guys lined up, back to back to back to back to back, going down to get their trays, stand in line before they release the tier, then go down the stairs, then line up to get your trays, then line up to go back upstairs. How are we social distancing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then every once in a while they'd have the nerve to open the yard up. So me and my cellie would never go to the yard, right? We turned all our fans, sprayed the air out the door, we did all of that, but they would open the yard up. So everybody's interacting. Even in the COVID-19 building, when I was in the COVID building, they ran yards for us to gather. Now, the yard in the COVID-19 unit is probably about as big as this room. Like literally maybe as big as this room. So they would bust you out tier by tier, but fit 200 people into this room or 150 people into this room. How are we social distancing? Even if they did it by 75, how are we social distancing?
Yeah.
So that's how that problem just grows and grows and grows and grows. And it pretty much, it doesn't help the people out.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, and then so another thing that I was going to ask about is how do you think, all day you stay in one place, right? So like you don't go out. So what's a normal day without COVID? Is how much time would you spend outside?
A normal day without COVID, I'm just going to go through a San Quentin day, which is totally different than every other prison. Okay. San Quentin is one of the only prisons I ever seen. When I first got there, there's geese on the yard. Right, it was amazing. I took so many pictures with geese, right? But you'd never see that in prison. But anyway, when I got there, San Quentin, you go have breakfast between 5:30, 6 o'clock. And after 5:30, 6 o'clock, the yard is open. Mm-hmm. It's still dark and the yard is open. The yard stays open until 4 p.m. count. And then they do unlocks every hour. But the yard stays open until 4 o'clock count. They do 4 o'clock count. It clears about 4:45, 5 o'clock. About 5:30, they start doing chow. Chow's done about 6:30. 6:45, they open the yard back up. The yard's open till 9 o'clock. And they do unlocks in between. And then, you shower, you go to the yard, you play sports, you go to your groups, you go to your education in between those times. Mm-hmm. Now, most prisons are absolutely 100% not like that. I was so shocked. I would just go sit out in the yard like an idiot because I hadn't been outside at 6 o'clock in the morning so long. He's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. I go out there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm just sitting there I ain't seen 6 o'clock in 20 years. But the average prison is totally different. The average prison, you go to breakfast about between 6:30, 7 o'clock. You're getting up, you're going to breakfast somewhere in between them. Come back from breakfast, you lock it up. Unlock will be about 9 or 10 a.m. You go out to about 11:45. There's going to be close custody count. They're going to lock you down. Count you from 12 to 1. From 1 to 3:45, you go back outside. 3:45, you come back in, lock it up, 4 o'clock count. After 4 o'clock count, then it's about 5:30, 6 o'clock. Somewhere around there, they'll start running chow. They'll run chow. You come back, you lock it up, and yard will open about 7:30, 7:45, something like that. And then they close the yard back at 9 o'clock, at 8:45.
Yeah.
That's about the normal day. Now, were you asking, what did I do?
No, I was just curious because I was going to ask, like, so with COVID, none of this stuff is happening, right? So, like, you can't even, a lot of, like, groups and, like, rehabilitation programs weren't even happening, right? Because of the interaction that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And you weren't here when this happened. I wasn't here when it happened. But that was one of the things that United People did, working with Senator Nancy Skinner in the governor's office, was for every guy in prison, man or woman in prison, during the beginning of the COVID-19 stages, we were working with the senator's office. I was still incarcerated. It was, this is when Mitch was out here. And what we did was we worked with them in the governor's office on giving everyone in the California state prison system, getting them 3 to 4 months. Some guys even got like 5 months off their prison sentence, because there is no programs during COVID. There is no rehabilitation. There is no groups. There is no nothing. It's on your bed all day, every day.
Yeah. So now, what about now? Because it's still COVID, do you think that they're running them now, like now that we know more, or do you think there should be more time taken off of people's?
Well, there absolutely should be more time for that reason. For the guys that are trying to program and do rehabilitation programs, there absolutely should be more time taken off. You got to look. COVID started when? Look how much longer it is now.
Yeah, it's been.
And they just opened the program back up. Like at San Quentin, groups were just now starting back up. They were starting their basketball season with the Golden State Warriors League, the Christian Ministries League, and they haven't even got a game in yet. They were just practicing, but now everything's back slammed. So of course they should be getting more time. We were actually have been trying to negotiate that for everyone incarcerated, to get them more time off based on that, because your programs would have given you that time off. And if CDC gives you enhancements and nickel priors and near priors and everything else, they're going to give you the bad no matter what. Right. You can't say, well, hold on, don't give me that because of this. They're going to give it to you.
Yeah.
So if they're going to give you the bad, they should at least be fair enough to give you the fair. I'm not even going to say the good, the fair. Right? If I'm going to programs and I'm in the program, if I'm in the program and I don't go, I'm going to get a write-up. I'm going to get a 115. I'm going to get more time. If I'm in an education program and I don't go, I'm going to get a write-up. I'm going to get a 115. I'm going to get more time.
Right.
So if you shut that program down where I'm working on milestone credits or whatever it may be, and you shut it down due to something that has nothing to do with me nor you, we have to do it, it should seem fair to say, well, as long as you guys, the qualifications that we had on the first one, as long as you guys don't get a violent 115 or something like that during COVID, then you should still be afforded those credits that you would have got, because that program's still getting funded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That program is still making money. Whether it's up, whether they're going in there or not, that program's not shut down. You know what I mean? Everybody else is getting what they're supposed to get. So the guys that are incarcerated should be able to get what they're supposed to get as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so just like not doing anything every day and not like having those interactions, how do you think that affects, I mean, aside from everything else that that's wrong with the prison system that affects mental health, do you think this has had an even more of an effect on the mental health of
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Super, because the mental health programs are shut down. There's only certain mental health things open in a prison during COVID. And that's if you're having a mental health breakdown right then and there, you'll get some nurses. If you're crazy, or whatever you want to call it, they'll lock you up. You know what I mean? But as far as a program, like going to your psych, like I used to, I was in a program with the psych doing, due to PTSD for 3 years. And it was great, honestly. Everybody should see a therapist. Like, I 100%, our community is no therapy. that was great. But during the lockdown, you don't get that.
Right.
So if you're used to going to therapy and you're learning how to process or cope or deal with your triggers, your PTSD, whatever it may be, you're not getting that.
Right.
So if you're not getting that, you're just laying in your cell going crazy, or not. But if you do, they just basically wait till you snap and you can't do no more. Then they'll come take you out and put you in the hole, something like that.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because when you were saying that, I was thinking about how in the outside world, everything just moved online, right, with COVID. And so if I'm in therapy and I can't go into my therapist's office or whatever, I'm just Zooming with them, him or her, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not possible in
Right.
prison, right? You don't have access to the kind of resources that everyone out here does. You're not allowed to.
Right.
So I think that's like an interesting thing to think about as well when we're talking about like is accessibility when it comes to the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's true. I mean, that's something that has to be addressed. But more than likely, just calling it what it is, unless we can get in and talk with these senators and talk with these governors, and there's different bills to address that, or they're trying to get different bills to address that. But unless we can get in and talk to these people, then more than likely, just like with everything else, you're going to get the short end of the stick if you don't fight for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you have any questions?
Yes, I did actually. I was wondering because I know you mentioned visitation and how they kind of had to shut it off for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So at least during the peak of COVID, did people just not see their loved ones for like months at a time and had like no visitation whatsoever? Like did that affect, the packages that they were sent or anything like that?
100%. Everything you just said is exactly what happened. You were just immediately cut off. With just cause though, with some of the things, the visiting room being congested like that, in the beginning, you could see them saying, okay, look, we're not going to do that. But in the same note, you do the same thing with the COs. You do the same thing with everybody. Don't just cut off the visitors from our family members. And then the CO, during COVID, they had family day at San Quentin. If I'm correct, I remember them having family day while everybody else didn't. You know what I mean? But I might be wrong. And I know everyone out there, you probably already know whether I'm right or wrong on that. But from what I recall, if we were immediately cut off from anything, telephones, you couldn't even call for most people. You couldn't even call for the population unless you had some type of legal cell phone or whatever you want to say. But was cut off. No communication with your wife, kids, mother, anybody. No visits, nothing like that. And packages completely shut down. There was no package room. There was none of that. We were up in there like third world country. Like literally, you'd get rice on your tray and put rice in the cup and hold it and eat part of it and leave part of it and eat part of it. We were up there. There was no toilet paper. Like everyone out here was hoarding toilet paper. COs were taking toilet paper.
Wow.
There was COs that we'd go down there and get toilet paper, and the CO tell like, nah, ain't none of this. He over laughing because he know I'm telling the truth. The COs would be over there, and you'll go down there like, hey man, let me get some toilet paper. And they'll fall out laughing. You get some of this, you a bad cat. You ain't finna get near all of this. This finna go in our trunks. And so, even a mask, a CO gave me a mask, man. A cool CO gave me a mask. And I was one of the only dudes that had a K95 mask.
Wow.
Right, I used that mask till it damn near fell off of my mouth. Right, it couldn't have been no more good. But I was so happy to have a mask. I was scared to death of COVID. You know what I mean? So I would tell them like, man, damn what y'all talking about. Please, will you give me a mask? You know what I mean? But and then what San Quentin ended up doing was taking your jumpsuit. You know those orange jumpsuits you see from people in county jail, and they would cut patches out of them and gave you that as a mask, and that was your mask, and that's what you rocked with. But yeah, there was no packages, there was no canteen, there was no. There's been times, if you go back to when, and you guys won't remember this, but they had, what was that outbreak we had?
H1N1?
No, it's a name. Oh, I just
Swine
had it.
flu?
No, just until you said it. It's Legionnaires. Legionnaires.
When was that?
Not that far before I came home. About a year or so back before I came home. They had Legionnaires disease break out. And people were dying. Like, people were dropping. And they said, oh, it's Legionnaires. But they cut off our water, cut off our toilets for weeks.
Wow.
And so you're in there with no toilet. Figure that out. Well, what were we having to do to use the bathroom? You know what I mean? To drink water. You couldn't drink water. So they said, oh, we're going to bring you guys bottled water. And we're going to bring you, like even during the COVID, E40 sent in, the rapper, the artist guy, E40, sent to certain prisons a bunch of gallons of hand sanitizer. And it was all over the news. E40 donates hand sanitizer. We'd never seen any of that. I guarantee you that all went out in the CO's cars. We've never seen not one smidgen of it, right? When he was on the news, like, yeah, San Quentin, I'm sending you guys in there buckets of these. Had the company on the news, we're donating these to the prison. And we never got that. You know what I mean? That went to the staff. But back to the Legionnaires thing, we had a Legionnaires outbreak, and during that outbreak, like, just water, period. I mean, people was paying big money for water. I was trying to buy all the water I could from people. Everybody was trying to buy. There was no water. You couldn't use the restroom. You couldn't wash your hands. You couldn't shower. They had brought portable showers onto the basketball court, and you would get that once a week or something like that. You can go out there and shower. But, yeah, they had gallons of water that they were bringing in. And again, those went to the COs. You know what I mean? For the most part. Mm-hmm. So then when we did get them, everybody you would pay big money for water.
Wow.
So I hope that answered your question.
I think so.
All right.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Just feel like it's just forgotten people in everything. Just like,
right.
It's not, people don't think about that. At one point, I read this online at one point at the, I think, California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo. One in three, like, inmates were infected with COVID. Incarcerated people were infected with the coronavirus, and it's just like...
Yeah. Wow. And that's because of the conditions.
Yeah.
There's no way to clean that up.
Yeah.
There's no way, but... You know, and as somebody stands up and fight, that there's some organization out there like ours that actually give a damn, then there's not going to be, too much interest on it.
Yeah.
Have we gotten any comments so far?
We've gotten a few on here. I don't, let me see. Somebody better than me.
I don't know better, but I'll do my best.
We're better at the phone.
Let's see. Oh gosh, I did.
Well, while she's looking for the questions,
I have a question actually.
Yes, ma'am.
It's kind of general. I've been thinking about it for a while. I just never had a chance to ask you, because we work together in your office all the time. But so the CDCR, obviously we have to work with them. We have to look up stuff on their website. But you always refer to it as the CDC. And I was wondering if that's intentional, or if it just, because I know the R was not added. I know the R. Okay, I also did some research, and the R was added in 2004, which I guess was a while ago. But I was wondering if you say that just because you're used to the old way, or is it like, are you saying like you're kind of like the R,
leaving it off because it's kind of rehabilitation in the prison.
Yeah. What is it?
Naturally, I say CDC because that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Even though it was introduced in 2004, we didn't really hear about it until probably 2008, 2009, where we started seeing it show up on our pants and things like that. Like, we didn't, that's their thing. They did that, probably one, because there is a real CDC, globally. Yeah. But then also, it was more so, and if I remember correctly, and you might be able to help me on that, but if I remember correctly, they were getting sued behind no rehabilitation in the prison system. And I think one thing California does, if you sue them and you win, they change that thing for everybody. For instance, no smoking in prisons. Somebody had a lawsuit saying that they were getting secondhand smoke. That's why they got cancer. And so they sued them, they won. Cut cigarettes out of prison. And I hate to say this is going to sound weird, but even rated R movies, you know, as a grown man, I didn't really see rated R movies till I came home. Because they don't show rated R movies in prison. Because somehow somebody said something, you know, somebody watching a movie aroused him and he got raped or whatever. I don't know. But I doubt a movie turns a guy into a rapist. But they lost the lawsuit. They lose the lawsuit, they change it. So that's probably how, if I'm remembering correctly, how that R got on there. And all that is it was California Department of Corrections. Then after they lost, it became and rehabilitation.
Yeah.
But it's just in your head, you know, like, you know, if UPS put an R at the end, you would say UPS, you know what I mean? You wouldn't think of R.
Yeah.
But that's why I always say that.
Okay, interesting. I thought it might be intentional.
Sure.
Okay. Operation Black said San Quentin is still not reporting the real COVID count. It has said one case for over a month. I know there's more cases there because the majority of the prison is back on phase 1, no visits, and back on quarantine.
Right. Now, that statement right there is true from what I hear. Personally, I'm in contact with, you know, people that have loved ones in that prison or whatever it is. But I can just say from my own experience, when I was there, San Quentin was reporting no deaths or one death, which caused all. I literally saw them dragging bodies out of the COVID-19 unit.
Yeah.
But until the end, where the public really got on top of it, like, you know what, we know you guys are lying, and they started rallying outside the gates. You know, they'll pick it and they'll do that. That's when you start hearing some of the real. But to this day, I don't think San Quentin has released the real numbers on what happened. I think they cover a lot of stuff up. For instance, I have a friend, I'm not going to name his name, but he died of COVID there. And he got COVID. Older gentleman. Went to the hospital, stayed there. COVID was gone. You know, he stayed there until the COVID was gone. But the COVID had eaten up his lungs and damaged his lungs so much that when they took him off the breathing machine, he ended up dying anyway. And so for the longest, and I think maybe still to this day, I don't know for sure, but I think to this day, they're still trying to say, oh, his death wasn't COVID related.
Right.
But I know the family personally, you know, the brothers, and I know a few of them personally, and that's exactly, you know, what happened to them. So there's a lot of things that they do. I've seen, and I'm not going to make this long because I know we got to move on. But there's a time where I was back at a prison called CRC, and they had a brother named Big Earl, Big Swole from New Jersey. And if, you know, people incarcerated watching this, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Big Earl had asthma. We called him Big Swole, right? Big old, real nice, happy guy from New Jersey. But he had asthma. He had an asthma attack at count time. So when he had his asthma attack at count time, the brothers in the unit was trying to get the COs to like, hey man, call medical. He got to go. Yeah, he's having an asthma attack. He can't breathe. And the COs were like, it's count time. We're not opening the Sally Port door. Just a little grill gate with the key. They could have just twisted the key, opened it. Medical's right there. The guy would have lived. But instead, they let Big Earl. The brothers picked him up and carried him to the Sally Port gate, but they don't have no key. So just because it was count time, they didn't open the gate. So Big Earl died right there at that gate. So some of the people went right back and called his family and said, hey, you know, hey, Big Earl just died. We're sorry. But when his family called to the prisons, they lied to them for months and kept telling them, like, no, Earl's still alive. Earl's good. And his mother people call his mother, and his mother would go off, why don't you guys stop lying to me? They tell me my baby's all right. But in reality, after a while, they figured it out. Like, he hasn't called, he hasn't written, he hasn't nothing, or was dead. But so that's something that CDC does. So when they don't report, when someone says on our Instagram that they aren't reporting all of the numbers right now, I would tend, to kind of believe what they're saying, because they weren't reporting all the numbers when I was there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read some stuff about that too.
All right, so let's move on a little bit. Is there anything else?
Any AB1509 updates?
If we didn't go over that, we'll have to do that next week.
Yeah, that one doesn't sound familiar. Is that on the board?
No.
I don't think that one's on the board.
1509. Well, what we'll do is we'll address that.
Well, that kind of leads into what I kind of wanted to talk about, just how to look up information about bills on the state legislature website.
Uh-huh.
I've recently learned, I think it's very exciting. I'm sure many people will find it boring. But I've been recently learning how to do it myself. But yeah, because we get calls in the office for updates on bills, and that's good. I love talking to people about them. And we're also trying to spread the information about them on our social medias. We are actively tracking all the relative bills relative to our work in the office. So that would be that's a good resource for specific bills geared towards criminal justice reform, post-conviction stuff. But if you just want to look them up ever for yourself, I think the state legislature recently revamped their whole website, and it's very accessible. But you can search any bill that's active. You can search old ones too, but I don't know why you do that. But active bills, you can search them all. And I just discovered you can track them. So if you have a specific bill that you're interested in, and you want to know if it's still in the legislative process, and you want to know when it's going to be debated or when it's going to move on to the next committee or whatever, you can put your email in, and they'll send you emails when it's going to go to hearing or when it's going to committee or anything. So I did that for all the bills that we're tracking, so I know that when they're going to be, if they die, if they fail, whatever. But I think the 81, SB 81, the resentencing one, I think Senator Skinner authored that one. That is the most promising one that we have on the board right now. It's going to, was today Thursday? Oh no, tomorrow it's going to hearing, which is good. That's the furthest along in the process, for sure.
Explain to the people a little bit about what SB 81 is.
SB 81 is, it's focused on the process for requests for resentencing. And I think it kind of cuts out one of the walls that we hit a lot. And instead of filing the request with the DA, you can take it straight to the court. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the other one. I'm thinking of 1245. That's the resentencing one. 81 is enhancements. Enhancements, yeah. So
Say excuse her.
Yeah.
So we're all human.
The 12. Okay, I was thinking about the 1245 because that one is awesome.
It's her first show.
Also, it's my first show. But yeah, so 81 is enhancements. So it's, I don't think it's retroactive, but it is Senator Skinner. But you only apply the enhancement if it's in the pursuance of justice, right? Which is kind of, I don't know.
What it means is they give the courts discretion.
Yeah.
And right now, that discretion is held by the district attorney's office and then the judge, right? So what that bill will do, it will put the discretion more in the courts, so you don't have to go straight to the district attorney's offices. But there's different bills to add to that are just as important. They're not as far as along the process. For me personally, just being someone that was incarcerated, being in there, the racially sentenced bill. Do you know? And I know we're going to talk about this next week. So I don't know why we're addressing it now, but I'm interested in this, and maybe some other people are. Are you familiar with where the racially sentencing bill is right now?
I thought that one was already signed into law.
I don't think so.
It wasn't? Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's close.
Okay.
But I don't know. See, right now we're having just a human discussion, the same you would have out there. But next week, we're going to have all the research done on the bills. And we're going to, next week, be having Erline. Oh, let's announce that, too. Next week, we're going to be bringing on in our special guest is going to be the Ear Hustle podcast crew. Erline Woods, Nigel, Bruce. Man, I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be great. I can't wait to have them on there. Erline is a really good personal friend of mine. I would say the same about Nigel and Bruce as well. I met them while we were incarcerated. But you tune in next week, and we're going to be talking with them. We're going to be talking about their podcast and how they help to humanize guys that are incarcerated, which is very important, putting a human face on someone. That's not the movies. That's not the media. Everyone's not a monster incarcerated. So that's going to be huge. Can't wait to have those people on here. The following week, we're looking to have Lauren Posen on the show, the journalist from Spectrum One News. We might even figure out some way to do them both on the show. I don't know. Maybe we'll run a little over, but that's what it's looking like right now. What we will do is we will research your question on the 1509, and we will come back next week with answers to all of that, what's happened, all of that. Is there anything else that we need to be? We still have 16 minutes left in the show, but is there anything that we need to be addressing right now?
In terms of the bills, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay, we're not done with the bills yet.
Well, it's just something else that you can look up on the website. You can figure out you can look at the history and every committee that it went to, and you can see exactly who voted yes or no on it. So you can look up your local representatives. I did this for our representatives in Long Beach, and all the bills we're tracking, and I looked them up to see, and so I just Control F, and looked up all our reps and saw if they voted yes on these bills that we want to pass, and they all did, so that was good, because if not, then you can call, right? You can call your representative and tell them that you support it and that you think they should support it too. I learned in one of my classes in college actually that I think all it takes is 7 calls or 7 people calling a local representative about legislation to get them to that and it can sway their vote. That's because I think state legislation is, well, I think it's more powerful than federal legislation, even though that gets all the news.
She sounds really disappointed with that.
Well, it's annoying, but not enough people. I don't think enough people are engaged in local state politics. But it's your voice, your vote means even more at a local state level. So you can, and representatives are more accessible at that level too.
Well, one thing we did back with 1437, when the felony murder bill was still in the legislative process, what we did was we started a Change.org campaign. Well, was it Change.org? No. What we did was there was a lady named Alex. She spoke with Mitch about our organization supporting them in getting the felony murder rule passed. So what we did was we set up a thing where your local politicians or senators, whatever it was, can be assembly members, we would give you their email, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had all their contact information. We created the I support the 1437 template, whatever it be. You would just have to go in, add your name, and then when you press send, it was automatically emailed to the assembly member, to the Senate, everyone, right?
Yeah.
And we set that up, and what we did was we ran a campaign for them and it wasn't for them as far as the SB 1437 people. We did it because we knew that that bill needed to pass to help the people. And Alex did ask Mitch to help. And when she asked him to help, he came back and we put together a plan with our team. And so we got thousands and thousands and thousands of people emailing their local assembly members' offices. And so we feel that when that did pass, she did speak with Mitch. She called him, crying to him, thank you for helping. But that definitely works.
Yeah.
Contacting those people definitely worked, because one thing for certain is they need you to be reelected. So if the people that's in their area are contacting them, then they feel like, this is what my area wants. So anything that you support, that you feel needs to be supported, contact your local assembly member or your local senator's office, whoever's working in your district, and you'll find that they will respond pretty much to someone that's looking to get something done. Now, before
What about the call-in number?
our call-in number,
Yeah.
okay, before we shut it down, I do want to say one thing. This is like a shout out to somebody that I see on our social media, Brother Bug. Hey man, it's good to see you, brother, and glad to see you on here. It's good to see you, brother, and I hope to see you soon. He's dying laughing right now because that goes so far back. But next week, we're going to be using a feature where you can call in. I addressed it a little bit in the beginning, but you'll be able to call into us live. You call in, and whatever you want to address, whatever you want to talk about, there's going to be a certain time limit per person calling in, I'm sure. Chloe and Destiny are, a couple of our producers. There are a few that help actually produce this show. And I'm sure they will draw it up and have it to where there's a nice fair time for each person, and whatever you want to talk about will be addressed. Again, next week's show, we're having, Ear Hustle, and their staff will be on. Maybe we'll have Lauren Posen from Spectrum News that week or the week after. We will see about that. The week after that, we're looking to maybe there might be a celebrity guest coming in, or there might be an attorney, which is a celebrity for us guys that are incarcerated. So either way it goes, for the next few weeks, man, we definitely look to really be, answering all the questions and providing all the information we can possible. I do have a question for them, but again, we're going to have a call-in number. Is the call-in number the same number right there on that?
415-377-6575.
All right, yeah. Next week, you'll be able to...
On the screen right under you.
Okay, on the screen right under me. Uh-oh, this is TikTok.
That's perfect.
Right? But, yeah, you guys call this number right under here. Next week, live during a show, you can ask any questions. It's 415-377-6575. If you're a guy that's incarcerated, you have my number. That's my number. No, but yeah, give us a call, and we'll definitely answer any questions. But with that being said, we have about 9 minutes left. So I do want to say, Chloe, you have Jess Ruiz.
That's my cousin.
Okay, your cousin said, "Heck yeah, Chloe." So.
Heck yeah, that's right.
Yeah, when you were talking about, she said hi too.
Hi.
Hi, Jess Ruiz. And we do have, man, I wish I would have saw this when I had a chance. We had, she might still be there, I don't know, but a Dr. Carmen Johnson. And if anybody's really politically connected, you know exactly who I just said. Dr. Carmen Johnson's out of Washington, D.C., or she works out of Washington. She might be from Baltimore, something like that. But she's a really good friend of mine, and she's super connected in the political world, as far as it goes in the White House. And she has her own organization shows. She works with the Judge Joe Brown guys. I mean, she does a little bit of everything, right? And one of these days, we're gonna get her on here, and she's fire. She's fire. You want to talk about legislation? She'll tell you everything. She'll tell you who, what, where, when, and who to talk to. If I ever want to be a politician, which I may, distinguished gentlemen, if I ever wanted to be a politician, this would definitely be the woman that I would contact first. So she may be on here soon. But before we run out of time, I got a question for you guys, and I want you guys to explain this to the people. And that is Patreon. What is Patreon, and what does it do?
Take it away, Destiny.
That's a great question. Thank you. So our Patreon is a monthly subscription. You get 3 different levels depending on the price you pay, and with each price you get like exclusive.
The price you donate.
Yeah, the price
To
you
donate. Yeah, it supports the radio show.
Supports the radio show, yes. So our first tier is for $2 per month, and by joining that tier, you'll have access to participate in live streams and view behind-the-scenes content of the Unite the People radio show.
Hold on one second. I don't mean to interrupt you, but could you slow it down a little bit and explain it to them so that they can get it? So no, I just want them to be able to understand.
That's good. Yeah, I need to know these things.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow along. So can you say that one more time for us?
So Patreon from the beginning.
Yes, ma'am.
Patreon is a monthly subscription where you'll be donating a set amount, and then you'll get exclusive access and content, sometimes merchandise, depending on which tier you pay per month. So yeah.
Okay, can you explain to us some of those tiers? Are we going to do that this week?
Yeah, Destiny has it.
Can you explain some of those tiers to us and what it is, what they get when they donate to us?
Okay, so when you donate $2 per month, that is our first tier. With that, you'll get a monthly newsletter. So our newsletters that we send out quarterly. You'll also get monthly radio show shout-outs and a Unite the People sticker.
Ooh.
Yay! Stickers, yeah.
That's the $2 tier.
$2 tier. And then our second one is for $5 per month. With that, you'll get some of the same benefits as the first tier. So still the monthly newsletter. You'll get a monthly radio show shout-out and a Unite the People sticker. Plus, you'll also get a personal letter from our CEO himself, Mr. Ceasar McDowell.
All right, well, you don't want a letter from me. Go to the next tier up.
And one more thing in that tier, right?
Yes, and then you'll also get quarterly Unite the People merchandise raffle. But you must be a patron for 3 consecutive months in order to be entered in that raffle. And
anything in there else that we forgot on that tier?
No. Last tier.
Last tier is for Unite the People VIP.
Uh-oh. That's big time.
VIP, $10 per month, $10. So
$10 per month. You can be big time to an organization, help us keep the radio show up and going. It's not easy. Just like everything else is work. If we turn the cameras around and you guys could see what this actually looked like on the other side, it's going to take a lot in order to keep something like this up and going. So just the little donations here, getting on these tiers, reoccurring, $10 a month, and you're a superstar, right? So can you finish telling them about that?
yes. So with that, with the Unite the People VIP, our last tier, for $10 per month, you'll get a monthly newsletter, a monthly radio show shout out, a Unite the People sticker, also another personal letter of thanks from our CEO, quarterly Unite the People merchandise raffle. Again, you must be a patron for 3 consecutive months, and also 20% off at the Unite the People store or a free book from the Unite the People bookstore. So you get to pick one.
All right, so the Unite the People store. Where can they find the Unite the People store?
You could find that on our website, unitethepeople.org, on the screen, as I'm being told. Unitethepeople.org.
Right here? All right. So, yeah, you can go to our website, www.unitethepeople.org. You can check out, you'll see a tab that says store, and it has some of our shirts, which everybody always asks for all of the time. Great shirts. Chloe has one of them on there. It says Justice for All People. I mean, that's big, all right? We've had people from other countries asking us for those shirts. But you'll see other things. We do have a bookstore there where we've partnered with Amazon, I think. And what we do is we sell books partnering with them. That's kind of in our wheelhouse of, what we would. You can order them, you can order them for your loved ones in prison. Amazon will ship them to them. You can order them for yourself, whatever you want to do. So you go there. There's going to be more exciting items on there. Next month we will be at the Long Beach Grand Prix. Out there, we're going to be having merchandise. We'll make that merchandise available on our website as well. And is there anything else on the Patreon thing that we need to address?
No, that's it for Patreon.
Okay, Patreon will be available next week. How is that?
It's already on our social media. Yeah, so you visit the link in our bio on all our social media, and you go to the link tree, and then it says Support Unite the People on Patreon, and you just click on that, and it should be set up, and we'll make sure.
So they gotta go to the link tree first.
Yeah, and we can put it on the website too,
and then,
on the radio show tab on the website. Yeah, and then it'll be accessible through that. Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody asked, how do I sign up for tier 3?
Ooh, yeah.
Let's go.
VIP right here.
So for tier 3, what you'd want to do is what she was just saying.
Yes.
Go to the bio in our social media. What is that? Facebook? Instagram?
Yeah, the bio.
Okay, you'd want to go, and that's Operation Black.
Woo.
And thank you, Operation Black. What you want to do is go to our bio right here on our page. There's a link where you'll click it, and it takes you to the link tree, which has a bunch of links in there.
Yeah.
And you'll click on the one that says Patreon.
Support us on Patreon.
Support us on Patreon. You click on that, and that's where you would make that donation, and you would make that $10 donation monthly. So, hey, that's great.
Yeah.
We've already figured it out, and we got our first person, man. So that's beautiful. Thank you, guys. Before we get out of here, I want to say thank you to Destiny and Chloe for coming in today and stepping in for Lauren Posen. And, they're great producers of the show, so they help us every week. They do the scripts. They do the everything. And so there's Chelsea, there's Peyton, am I forgetting anybody?
Mitch.
Oh no, that's at the office, doing that. Then we have, of course, the great Mitch McDowell himself. Without him, there wouldn't be none of this, right? Because I wasn't out there to do the feet part. So, definitely want to say thanks to Mitch and Joe Vegas. Without Joe being here, we wouldn't have the smartest man in the room. And definitely wanted to say that because we have another genius. Man, just want to say thanks to Big Kev, man. Uncle Kev is here every week, helping us put it together, spinning around in our mind, getting everything together, man. So without these people, the show wouldn't happen. You guys, please check out that Patreon, man, on our social media or on our website. Where is it on our website?
I'm not sure if it's on the website. We'll check.
Okay, if it's not, it will be tomorrow because we have the great Peyton. Remind to have him ask me today. Okay. So, with that, man, Bel Air Boy, Bel Air Boy says the only reason that Joe Vegas or Uncle Kevin may be the smartest man in the room is because he's not here. And that's also one of our great team members here, man. Without that guy, you probably wouldn't be hearing us right now. That's our sound guy. That's Big O. So, just want to say, man, thanks to O, too, man. He helped get this thing up and going. So, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see everybody next week, and we'll get all your questions answered. Thank you.
All right.
Hold on, turn everything.